Hey, COVID-19 is a real issue, but we are serious about our fight against the virus here at St. Stephen Church. So listen as some of our staff members give you healthy tips to keep you safe during this time.
Stay healthy at home. Only leave home for essentials, such as groceries, once a week.
Please avoid crowds and gatherings. Avoid crowds of any size. This includes family visits, recreational areas, and crowded shopping.
Practice social distancing. Maintain 6 feet between you and others at all times.
Know when to seek care. Follow the Know When to Seek Care guidelines at kycov19.ky.gov.
Stay up to date through reliable sources such as kycovid19.ky.gov.
Wash your hands with warm soap and water for at least 20 seconds. And disinfect all surfaces.
Apply for benefits. Kentucky has expanded unemployment benefits. So if you have not already done so, please go to kcc.ky.gov.
You have to do your part. You have to read. You got to pray. You have to prioritize your mental health. There's a link at the bottom of the screen. Check it out. Virtual mental health exercises, whatever you have to do to stay calm in this pandemic of COVID-19.
Do not travel. The safest place for you and others is at home. Do not travel by plane or by car.
Report non-compliance. If you see individuals or businesses not complying with COVID-19 guidelines, report to the KY Safer hotline at 1-833-KY-SAFER.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's Hump Day.
Woo-hoo!
Hello and welcome to Bible study time with the St. Stephen Church. And we're so happy that you could join in with us today. Hope that you have been following the guidelines to stay healthy, stay safe, stay home. Things may be looking as if they lightening up a bit, but we cannot just begin to do as we please. So even get your mask, get your gloves, keep yourself safe, because we want you to join in with us every week to enjoy the Bible study. Now, with today's lesson, we will be starting on a new series. And the series is called Ridiculous Faith. Ridiculous Faith. And our first lesson is Giants Do Die. Woo! That's a good one right there. Giants do die. Now, Hebrew chapter 11 is known as the chapter of faith because it gives us a list of men and women who pleased God. But these people have one thing in common with you and with me, and that is they have problems, and at times big problems. But they are listed in Hebrews 11 because in the midst, notice I said in the midst, not after it was over, but right in the midst of the problem and the crisis that they were going through, they demonstrated faith in God's promises. Thereby, the Bible said, it pleased God. So, if somebody says to you, are you playing Bible trivia? And the question comes up, how can you please God? By demonstrating faith with their faith. Did you know our faith determines success in life? Because Jesus said, right there in Mark verse 9:23. Matthew 9:29. According to your faith, according to your faith, be it unto you. So, in other words, my sisters and brother, if you got a little faith, then perhaps you get a little response. I know. I just heard somebody say, but Jesus said, if you had the faith the size of a mustard seed, that is right. Little faith moves mountains, because he said if you got the faith the size of a mustard seed, you could say to your mountains, move. Little faith moves mountains. Great faith moves God. Now, what you want to move, the mountain or God? I vote for God. I want to move him. And Mark also tells us that we need to have faith. Our faith, he says the same thing, determines our blessings. Now, Hebrew 11:6 makes it plain this way. It said, without faith, it is impossible to please God. Didn't say it was hard to please God. It says it is impossible to please God. So, with this series in May, and we'll have 5 lessons, we will talk about not just men and women who exhibit faith, but what I call ridiculous faith. Why do I call it ridiculous faith? Because when we look at the word ridiculous, it means unreasonable, unrealistic, unbelievable. In other words, in our first lesson, we're talking about giants do die. How realistic, reasonable, or believable that a young boy, because David was only about 17, 18 at this time, if that age, will go out to meet a giant while the army of God is standing on a hill terrified. But yet this scrawny young fellow goes out to meet the giant. So David, to me, exhibits ridiculous faith just by doing that. Now, what about you? Are you ready to face your giant? Or, let me ask you this question, do you know your giant? Do you know who or what your giant may be? Now, so, first of all, we got to understand a giant is an imaginary human being that is larger than life. But let's get away from it being a human being. A giant is something too big, got too much strength, so we think, for us to handle. And giants are nothing new. In fact, we are facing a giant right now. There are times we may have a giant in our life, but we as a church, as a city, as a community, as a nation, as the world, we are facing a giant today. But the good news from this lesson tells us giants do die. And this too will pass. Now, giants are nothing new. They are nothing new. In fact, when the children of Israel were getting ready to go into the promised land, you remember the story, and Moses sent 12 spies. 10 of them came back and said, whoa, the land is everything that God said it was, but there's a problem. There are giants in the land. 40 years later, because they didn't go in when God said you're going to go into the wilderness for 40 years. 40 years later, when they finally did get in the promised land, they find out that the giants were afraid of them. So we need to understand that the giants can be afraid of us. But let's look at this lesson. We look at 1 Samuel chapter 17 is where our lesson is. I encourage you to go back and read the whole chapter 17. It's a long chapter, so we are not going to have it all in our Bible study time today. But in chapter, this is what you need to know, in chapter 16, Now we in chapter 17 where the giant comes. But in chapter 16, David has been anointed to be the next king. So, but when you go into chapter 17, you will see that David, after Samuel had anointed him with the oil and said he was going to be the next king of Israel, what does David do? He go back out to the field and tend to the sheep. He stays on his job being a shepherd. But now, Israel's at war with the Philistines. This is an old enemy of theirs that has always caused them problems. The Philistines hated Israel, and Israel hated the Philistines. It's kind of like they were at odds with each other, you know, like U of L and U of K fans, Michigan and Ohio State fans, you know how they always, blah, 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 blah. Well, this is what we see going on with these two nations. And so David's brothers are in Saul's army, and Jesse sends David to go to them with some provisions. So let's start at verse 19, and then we'll start working our way through this and show you why we say he exhibits ridiculous faith and how we can bring our giants down. Now, verse 19, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation. David's brothers were with Saul and the Israelite army at the valley of Elah, fighting against the Philistines. So David left the sheep with another shepherd and set out early the next morning with the gifts as Jesse, who's David's dad, had directed him. He arrived at the camp just as the Israelite army was leaving for the battle with shouts and battle cries. They were ready to go out to meet the enemy. Soon, the Israelites and Philistine forces stood facing each other, army against army. David left his things with the keeper of supplies and hurried out to the ranks to greet his brothers. As he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, came out from the Philistine ranks. Then David heard him shout his usual taunts to the army of Israel. As soon as the Israelite army saw him, they began to run away in fright. Now check that out. They were standing there cheering and crying out, giving the battle cry, ready to go to war. But just as soon as Goliath shows up and begins to trash talk them, the Israelite army, when they saw him, now that's important. When they saw Goliath, that's when they became afraid and ran away. Now, let me say this, and we have giants in our lives. God told Israel when they went into the promised land, let me give you a little background here. He said, destroy everybody in the land. Joshua destroyed all the enemies, but he left three cities that he did not completely wipe out. It was Gaza, it was Gath, and it was Ashdod. Now, where did Goliath come from? I read it to you. The Philistine champion from Gath. That's where he came from. So when we don't do as God directs us to do, we want to stop and wonder how come God told us to wipe out everybody, but that seems back a little too much. It doesn't take all of that. Then guess what? It will come back to bite you in the you-know-what. And so now we have this giant terrifying God's people. And let me just stop and say here, Goliath, he does not carry a sword or a shield for us. Here's what he does. He banishes a blaze of unemployment, as we see now, abandonment. He brings up sexual abuse or depression, Your giant doesn't parade up and down the hills of Eloth like theirs were doing, but he prances through your office, through your bedroom, through the church, through your community. He brings bills you can't pay, and people you can't please, whiskey you can't resist, and pornography that you can't refuse. He brings a career that you can't escape, a past you can't shape, and a future you can't face. Goliath is not a jolly green giant. He is out to bring you down. He taunts you. He trash talks you. He terrifies you. In fact, and certainly we as a people ought to understand that how many times, and that's how come parents, you got to be careful when you talk to the children. You ain't going to ever amount to anything. You won't be nothing. You won't be this, you ain't be that. You're just like your daddy. That's trash talk. And we need to speak words of encouragement. You see, and notice I read to you. I know I read it to you. There it is. As soon as the Israelite army saw him, the question is Goliath all you see? Is Goliath all you see? Is that what you got your eye trained on Goliath, that you don't see anything but your problems? See, when we are Goliath, let me ask you this. You can ask yourself this. Are you Goliath focused or are you God focused? Because that makes a difference. If you're Goliath focused, then you focus on your giants. And when you focus on your giants, you stumble. But if you are God focused, when you focus on God, your giants tumble. And that's what happens with, notice, that's what's going on here in this lesson. When they focus on the giant, they were terrified, they were paralyzed, they stumbled. But when David, who shows up, who is focused on God, the giant tumbles. And that's what we got to do, my sisters and brothers. We cannot focus on COVID-19. Yes, we do need to keep safe. We do need to practice the things that's in place. Starting in May, you need to go out, have a mask on, wash your hands, practice social distancing. But because that makes sense, if you're not concerned about yourself, be concerned about others around you. You hear what I'm saying? But we don't stay just focused, say, well, we not. No. God is in control. Giants, 3 words, giants do die. And we will see that this giant will die. Okay. Now, but how do giants die? How do you beat your Goliath? How do you beat? Well, listen to the word of God. Let's go back, verse 37. We're going to jump down a little bit because I told you it's quite a bit of passage. Because David said, because when David heard Goliath out there trash talking, he got upset. He said, who is this uncircumcised dog that he would talk about God like that? So David said, hey, I'll go out. Nobody else want to go? I'll go. I'll go. That's what I'm talking about, having ridiculous faith. Here you see this 9-foot giant with all his stuff on, and now David says, I'll go. I'll bring him down. When Saul said, well, wait a minute. You nothing but a boy. That's where we pick up, and David does this. Look what he does. Let's read. Verse 37. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine. Saul consented. He finally consented. He said, all right, go ahead, David. and may the Lord be with you. The Lord was already with him. Then Saul gave David his own armor, a bronze helmet, and a coat of mail. David put it on, strapped the sword around him, and took a step or two to see what it was like, for he'd never worn such things before. I can't go in these, he said. He protested to Saul. I'm not used to them. And my sisters and brothers, let me stop right here. Be yourself. Because somebody bring their giant down in one way, that may not be the way for you to do it. You have to be true to yourself. There's only one time I have ever preached this sermon, and I preached it, so many years ago. And it was I couldn't believe it when they invited me. It was at a youth day. And when they called and said, will you come and be our youth speaker? I said, excuse me, but you do know I'm not a youth. But the youth wanted me to come. I thought, well, that's something. And so when I wrestled, the Spirit led me to this story. And I said to those young people then, and I say to you now, and I say, tell your children, tell your grandchildren, tell your nieces and your nephew, be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to wear what they wear, or look like they look, or say what they say. I wish I could preach or teach like Dr. Cosby, but I'm not him. I'm me. I'm Geneva. And the thing is, take me or leave me, but this is who God made me to be. And so I cannot try to be like Dr. Cosby. He is himself. So I can't wear his shoes. I could not preach as many sermons as he did. The most I did one Sunday was 3. And on the third sermon at this church I went to, I said, I need to tell y'all something. I done preached twice already today. So I suggest y'all have EMS out there waiting on me just in case I fall. But I'm not like my pastor. So we have to be who we are. So let's go back. So David took off again. He took Saul's things off. He picked up, you got to get this. He took off the helmet, the coat of mail. He took the sword off, all that stuff. David said, I can't even walk in this. You'll get me killed, dude. So what did he do? He picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream, put them in his shepherd's bag. Then, armed only with his shepherd's staff and a sling. Oh, did you hear me? 5 smooth stones and a shepherd's sling. He started across the valley to face the giant, the Philistine, the giant. Because giants do die. Whatever giant that's in your life, that's bothering you, that's taunting you, that's trash talking you, that's making you doubt yourself, maybe even making you doubt God, pick up 5 smooth stones and go after this rascal. So how do you beat Goliath? Here's what you do. You do what David did. You pick up 5 smooth stones. First stone is the stone of the past. While everybody else was quivering, David remembered. Remember what? And I read it to you right in the verse 17. He was telling Saul, the Lord who rescued me from the lions, from the jaws or the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me. Remember what God has done for you in the past. This lesson and these lessons that we will be dealing with this month are going to have you to examine yourself. You need to examine yourself. You can answer. So many times we want to learn lessons, but we need the lesson, the teaching, and the preaching is to bring about a change in you. If you go away still fearing your giants, then guess what? I haven't done my lesson. I haven't done my job. My job is to get you to see that I don't care what you're facing. it is still under God's feet. He's bigger than any situation. He's bigger than COVID-19. He's bigger than death. He is bigger than any enemy that you will face. So, the first thing is the stone of the past. God has delivered you. Remember God's success. Has he not brought you through trials and tribulations? I don't know about you, but for me, he had. Has he not proved to be faithful? Jeremiah said it. Lamentations 3:23. Great is thy faithfulness. We even like it so much that we made the song. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All that I need, his hands have provided. So great is thy faithfulness. Don't let your giant get in your head. Somebody think that you did something that you didn't do. Are you going to wonder about what people think about? Don't worry about what people think about. Worry about what God thinks about you. Ooh. Now, another point. In the past year, what success has God given you? Throughout your Christian life, what dangers has he brought you through? My mother used to sing a song, and I thought about it as I looked at this lesson again, that she taught me when we were just, my sister was on one side and I was on the other side and she was in the middle. I told you once before, we were poor. I said poor. I didn't say poor. I said poor. We were poor. We couldn't afford the other O-R. We were P-O, poor. And so in the afternoons, what did we do? We didn't have the television. I can remember. Whoa, my Lord. You're not going to believe this. It was right here, 15th and Prentice, because this is where we live. Right where St. Stephen is. How did I know we come back here again? I'd be speaking to you, talking about giants do die. One was on the right, the other one's on the left, and my mother had a song book. That's how come I know my hymns. And she taught us a song. You know what that song was? Think of his goodness to you. And I thought about it Monday, because on Monday was my mother's birthday, and she's been in glory for 8 years now, and I thought about it. But she taught us two things. Think of his goodness to you, and because when waves of affliction sweep over your soul and sunlight is hidden from view, if ever you are tempted to fret or complain, think of his goodness to you. Then, that wasn't enough. She said her next lesson that she taught us, and we never forgot. And that other lesson was God will take care of you. Woo! God Almighty. I feel something happening up in this office now. God will take care of you. I don't fear COVID-19 because God is taking care of me. And, I'm going to get to another lesson. But even if he don't, if he said, no, I want you to get it, and I die, guess what? I'll be with him. So I'm in a battle that I can't lose. Woo, God Almighty, I wish y'all could understand it. So, don't be preoccupied and worried about your job, your employment, what you got, what you don't have. And too many times we dwell on what we don't have instead of dwelling on what we've got. God will take care of you. So here's what you do. Write today's worries in sand, because you know sand will blow away, but chisels yesterday's victories in stone. That's what you do. That's a good one. You remember that one. Write it down. Write it down. Write today's worries in sand and chisel yesterday's victories in stone. That's a good one. You need to remember that. And put that, write it somewhere where you can see it and claim it as a promise. Now, stone number 2, the stone of prayer. Prayer is essential. Prayer is essential. It's essential in this ongoing warfare, because we in water, you all. You need to understand that. And David knew prayer. He knew what prayer could do, and he prayed. Now, I guess because I was thinking about my mother so much this week because this was her birthday, but you're talking about a person that could pray. Woo! I had a praying mama. That's one of my fondest memories of my mother is how she could pray. I went home and I told that little woman, I said, I just come from the doctor. And she said, I wonder how come you sitting out there in that car, took you so long to get out of the car. Well, that's simply because I was too weak to hardly get out of the car. And when I got out and I got into the house, I told the doctor wanted me to go straight to the hospital, but I couldn't do it because I couldn't just call her from the hospital and say, I'm in the hospital. And so she said she was scaring about. She said, get in the bed, girl, get in the bed. And lay down, I get everything ready. But before she could do anything else, she went upstairs to her bedroom. I knew what she was doing, getting ready to do then. And you talking about a mother pray for her child. Here I am. She prayed. She been in glory 8 years, and here I am, still teaching because my mother knew the power of prayer. David, look at this. Look at this. Psalm 61, 1 through 3. Hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth, I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me, to the rock that is higher than I. Because if I go to the rock that is higher than I, when I stand up on that rock, I'm standing head above everything that is after me. For you have been my refuge. You are a strong tower against the foe. Look what Psalms 57, 1 through 3 says. And this is from the Message. I love the Message, you know. Be good to me, God. Be good to me, God, and now. I need a blessing, and I need it right now. I've run to you for dear life. I'm hiding out under your wings until COVID-19, the hurricane blows over. But you can put COVID-19, unemployment, whatever. You see, you need to make the Bible your own. I'm hiding out under your wings until the storm blows over. This sickness blows over. Unemployment blows over. Whatever the situation means, I'm hiding under your wings until it blows over. I call out to high God, the God who holds me together. That's the reason that we won't fall apart and give out and give up and give in, because he holds me together. He sets order from heaven and he saves on his word. His word saves me. Woo! Then, Isaiah 26 and 3. You keep in perfect peace all, didn't say some, all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you. So, here's what. I told you to write down, write today's words in sand and chisel yesterday's victories in stone, because the sand, it will blow away, but the victories you need to remember. Now, here's another something that you need to write down. Keep these little tidbits. Before you go out to meet your giant, go down in prayer. Before you go out, go down. Woo! Ain't that a word? Before you go out, go down. You're not ready to face your giant until you go to one who knows how to fight a giant. Now let's go back to reading the scripture. I'm trying to get through so we can get all this. 1 Samuel chapter 17. We're going to do verse 46, 47. Remember, I'm in the New Living Translation. Today, now this is David. You see, Goliath has been trash talking. Now listen to David. David said, you want to talk some trash? You want to talk smack, dude? I can talk some smack too. And listen, today the Lord will conquer you. The Lord will conquer you. How he gonna conquer? And I will kill you and cut off your head. But first, notice what he said, the Lord will conquer you, and he's going to do it through me, because I will kill you and cut off your head. And then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. Whoa! See, so David said, you want to talk some smack? I'm going to talk some smack to you, dude, because here's what you need to know. Is this is going to be done. You think because Goliath has said, what? Y'all sending a dog after me? Well, I'm telling you, some of these little dogs can be feisty. Have you ever seen a little chihuahua get a hold of you, snapping at your heels and your ankles and what have you, and you can't let it go. And so David is saying, I'm going to bring you down, and the whole world will then know that there is a God in Israel. God Almighty. And everyone assembled here will know that the Lord, not him, he didn't take the credit. The Lord rescues his people, but not with sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle. Woo! This that we're going through right now, this is the Lord's battle. And he will give it to us. David said he will give you to us. But I'm telling you right here and now, this what we're going through today is the Lord's battle. It's too big for me. It's too big for you. And he will give it. He will conquer. He will do it. But he will give COVID-19 to us to conquer. I believe it. So, the third stone. Let me get to the third stone, because I'm almost through. The stone of priority. What is your priority? Well, I'll tell you, God's reputation was David's highest priority. Now, what is your priority? Your job, your money? Well, none of it's doing you any good right now, is it? None of it's doing you any good. Your job, you may be like most people have to stay in. You can't go to your job. Your job is shut down. Your job is folding. Instead of some of them out there complaining that I got to go to work, you need to be happy and thank God that you got a job to go to. And while I'm saying it, let me just give a shout out to the volunteers. And I said volunteers who came, who has been at St. Stephen for the last 2 weeks, standing out. The other day, it was warm Saturday, and they was covered from head to toe. They was out there this Saturday. The rains were falling, but they were out there because their highest priority was to do COVID-19 testing to see that people were safe. And when your priority will determine your behavior. Now, if God's reputation was based solely on your behavior, what kind of reputation would God have? Woo! Drop the mic. If God's reputation was based solely on your behavior, what kind of reputation would God have? Would he be known as a God? Would he be known as a God who was a coward because you run every time something spooks you? Would he be known as being mean because some of us Christians, and that's an oxymoron, because I don't know how you can say be a mean Christian, and some of us are, but Christians are not mean, not supposed to be. What do we say about God's reputation? If we had to live all of our life for God's glory, now listen, including your family life, your work life, your recreation life, what would you need to change? Woo! And I don't have time to quote it, but there was a poem I love. If Jesus came to your house, what kind of changes would you have to make? Would you have to put away some of your literature? Would you have to put out some prayer books, a Bible? Would you have to change things? Would you need to watch who's coming to your house? If you need to make any kind of changes, if he knocked on the door right now and you discovered it was Jesus and you had to make some changes, then you need to change it before he knocks on your door. Woo, my Lord. So, stone number 3 was the stone of priority. Stone number 4 is the stone of passion. Notice what David did. When he went out to meet Goliath, he went out and he ran to meet him. In other words, stop running from your problems. You got a God who can handle anything. See, writing down, making a list of your hurts, is not going to do anything. Itemizing problems, don't solve them. Categorizing rejections, don't remove them. David lobotomized the giant because he emphasized the Lord. What good has problem pondering gotten you? You stop and you think about your problem. What good has it gotten you? I mean, you stared at your problems, at your Goliath so long that you could number the hair on his chest. Stop focusing on Goliath. What is it that you're passionate about? Are you passionate about God's word? These trying times have showed us. That's why I talked about these nurses who were standing out there in all the weather this past Saturday. They were passionate about their work. Otherwise, and they were on their feet 5 and 6 hours. Just kept right on. Come on. And they were not nasty. They were wonderful because their passion was to do their job. Well, why can't we have that kind of passion for God? You see, when this is over with, it will test just how passionate are you about God. Well, I don't know. I ain't going to go yet. I don't know. Because are we still supposed to stay 6 feet apart? I don't want to do no pass the love, let's just elbow hit. When it's over, it's over. Give God top spot in your life. And stone number 5. Stone number 5 is the stone of persistence. Notice I said David picked up 5 stones. Now, that is not indicative of lack of faith. Because he picked up 5 stones, he going to go out and get a giant. I've been saying, get as many stones as you can in that. But he is going to be persistent. And my sisters and brothers, we need to be persistent. See, David felt like, okay, let's look at it this way. If the first stone don't bring him down, I got another stone for him. If the second stone don't bring him down, I got another one for him. You see, in other words, I'm going to keep on throwing stones until he falls, because giants do die. Throw that stone. Maybe I might miss him. I'll try it again. But also, David knew, here it is, Goliath had some kinfolks. Now, you know how it is, our kinfolks, we come out, we want to do battle with you. David said, I got one for you and I got one for you too. So, in other words, we need to imitate David and never give up. We don't give up, we don't give out, we don't give in. You see, in other words, one prayer may not be enough. Many of us say, well, I done prayed once. Well, one prayer may not be enough. One apology may not do it. Well, I done told them I'm sorry. What more do they want from me? Well, just apologize. Make it sincere. One day or month of resolve may not be sufficient. Be like David. Just keep on throwing the stones. Keep on working. Keep on hurling. Keep on trying until the victory is yours. Now, before I sign off, I want to tell you what I did. I named my stones. And this is one way. You got your pencil, write this down because it's not in your notes. Write it down. The stone of past, go back up there at number 1 where it said stone of past. I called that stone God did. In the past, all I need to do is look back and remember that God did it. He's already done it. So God did. Then go to the stone of prayer, where it's number 2. God can. That's why I'm praying to him, because I know God can do anything but fail. Stone 3, where it says priority. God is the joy and the strength of my life. He is. That's my priority. Stone 4, passion. God has. He has already done it. And stone 5, persistence. God will. And that's where I leave you. God will take care of you. That's our lesson for today. Tune in. Come on back at 7 o'clock. Pastor's got a word for you tonight. Tune in on 9:30 Sunday. He's got he's preaching. And you need it. Tune in. God will take care of you. And because he will, giants do die. See you next week.